Okay, we're continuing with the book here, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by E.P. Rogers in alphabetical order. Well, actually, for alphabetical order, we're doing happiness quotes now. This is part 2 of happiness quotes. So here's a longer version of the quote by Albert Camus. He was a French writer, and he said, this is like a letter of his that he wrote, "My dear, in the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. And I realized through it all that in the midst of winter there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, and it's pushing right back." Okay, I love that quote by Albert Camus, because the world messes with you. A lot of times you get treated unfairly, screwed over, and you just have to have something inside you that says, I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to fucking do it. So fuck you, get out of my way. I'm going to do it. And so you have to just have that push. You know, it's sort of like, I don't care if you knock me down. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to do it. So you have to have that in you in order to be able to be successful over the long run. Because, you know, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have failures and disappointments. And, you know, you got to just keep pushing. Okay, Andre Marou, I don't know how to pronounce that. He has found a good wife. He who has found a good wife has found great happiness. But a quarrelsome woman is like a roof that lets in the rain. Yeah, there's truth in that one. That was like what Socrates said. If you find a good wife, you'll be happy. And if you find a bad wife, you'll become a philosopher. So either way, it's good to get married. In those days. In those days, you didn't get robbed. Okay. Friedrich Schiller. When you are not happy with your life, always remember that there is someone who is happy simply because you exist. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of Mere Christianity from C.S. Lewis. Okay, C.S. Lewis, these are just a couple of brief excerpts. Mere Christianity is more like a hall out of which all the doors open into several rooms. And if I can bring anyone into that hall, I shall have done what I attempted. Human beings, after all, they have some sense, and they can see that they cannot have any real safety or happiness except in a society where everyone plays fair. And it is because of this that they see they have to behave decently. Ever since men were able to think, they always end up with at least two views of the universe. And these are roughly what they are. The first is the materialistic view, that life just happened, space and matter just exist, they've always existed, nobody knows why, and we just, by some fluke, creatures were created. Okay. The other view is the religious view, that there's some mind behind the universe, designing it, inventing it, creating it, and it prefers one thing to another, and it decided to make creatures like us that have a mind like it has. Not as good as its, but still a mind. Wherever there have been thinking men, these two views turn up. And God invented us, just like he invents a machine. A car is made to run on gas, and it will not run properly without anything else. God designed us to run on himself. He himself is the fuel of our spirits that we are designed to burn, or the food that our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other. And this is why it's just no good asking God to make us happy in our own way without bothering about religion. You can't have Christianity without Christ, okay? Because people sometimes say, oh, I wish we could have people behave like Christianity but not have Christ. You can't have it. The reason why kids learn religion is because they learn about Christ, okay? Without Christ, you don't have Christianity, all right? It's more than Platonism for the masses, as Nietzsche would say. Okay, C.S. Lewis continues. This is the key to history. Terrific energy is expended. Civilizations are built up. Excellent institutions are devised. But each time something goes wrong, some fatal flaw brings the selfish and the cruel people to the top. Yeah, did you ever ask yourself, why is it that so many of the rulers are evil, tyrannical scumbags, psychopaths? It's because regular people are weak and they allow that to happen, okay? It seems to start up right, and then it runs a few yards, and then it breaks down. The machine conks. They're trying to run it on the wrong fuel. This is what Satan has done to us humans. Yeah, and that's basically a decision, Christianity versus Satanism. Okay, so that was it for C.S. Lewis, that excerpt, that we are designed to run on Christ. And it's a fact. People will never be perfect, but that's as good as they're going to get. And that's as creative as they're going to get. Robert Heinlein, happiness comes from being able to work long hours and doing something that you think is worth doing, committing yourself to a useful goal. Okay, James Hollis, the goal of life is not happiness, which is only transient, but something for which meaning abides. In the second half of life, the questions become, what apart from the roles you play are you? What does the soul ask of you? Do you have the wherewithal to shift course, to deconstruct your painfully achieved identity, risking failure, marginalization, and loss of collective approval? No small task. We are meaning-seeking creatures. And when we experience a loss of meaning, we suffer. So yeah, everybody knows that feeling. If you start doing a job and you think it's a waste of time, you're not happy. Even if you're making decent money, you're glad for the money, but you want to feel like you're doing something useful and meaningful. That's one of the reasons why I love doing all this nutrition and health stuff, because it's meaningful. Okay, a little bit of brief stuff here on Bill Murray, the comedian, and that'll tie into a few other things. He's a great Irish comedian, actor, and he says, most conversation is predictable. You just know what the other person's going to say before they say it, and they know what you are expected to say. All you have to do is throw in a little surprise, and it becomes fun. Oscar Wilde had written, some people bring happiness into whatever room they enter, others remove it. And my mom was the kind of person who brought happiness into whatever room she entered. And when I was a kid, I very much admired my father. And he was a psychiatrist, so you'd think he knew a lot about people, but my mom had better people smarts than him. Wherever she went around, she's cracking jokes, everybody's happy and laughing, and she was always doing the right thing, even if it wasn't the official, political, correct establishment thing. Very often it was not, but she always made things good for everybody. And that's why she was like a modern saint, my mother. Okay, and now we're going to do a little bit of stuff briefly. This will be the last part from Pascal. And Pascal said, imagine God created a world just as Descartes described. So what? That's sort of a deist view of life, that God created the world and walked away. As opposed to a theist one, is that he had some involvement with the creatures that he created. So in a deist universe, Pascal says, there is still the misery of man, the contradictions, the absurdities of life, incomprehensible to us. That the world had a creator. Fine, but so what? What does it resolve? What does it answer for you? Without the knowledge of Christ, knowledge of God is a barren, empty, philosophical doctrine about a first cause, irrelevant and unimportant to human life. But faith and Christian revelation change everything. There are arguments, but they won't convince you, because one does not believe in Christ through the mind. One believes in Christ through the heart. Okay? There were miracles, there were prophecies fulfilled, but those won't tempt you at all, because the mind rejects what's good and the will rejects what's good. But if one is touched in one's heart by grace, the heart has its reasons, which reason knows not. And the world finds it absurd that a Christian believes by faith and grace. But here is what happens. Have you ever looked at a trick picture, and you look at it, and it looks like one thing? But then you change your perspective on it, and you look at it from a different angle, and you realize that it is a picture of something else. This is what Christian faith accomplishes. When you understand the full, you understand the absurdity and misery and dualism of human life. You understand how we are a combination of the exalted and the debased. When you understand the sacrifice, the crucifixion, the blood, the grace of Christ, then that there is a God and that this is his world merited by the love that surpasses all understanding, it makes sense of a world that was formerly incomprehensible. With faith, our contradictions and unhappiness, our greatness and depravity, it all falls into place. It's not physics or barometrics or philosophy. None of these things are the goal of life. Inner peace and salvation are the goals of life, and those are matters of grace, the heart, and Christian faith. And that's Pascal Pensée. He lived from 1623 to 1662. So I hope you found that helpful.